Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all around the metaverse. Join us today for our 34th episode. I'm glad to have you all here watching, and pretty much, our purpose as Rome and Metaverse Nomads is to engage and play to earn games with a mind towards having fun, building relationships, compounding value, and as a team, and keep up with the crypto Web3 gaming space as a whole. So, will the projects last the test of time? Does any of these projects know what they're doing and have all the answers? Will they all crash and burn and Ponzi us all to financial ruin? Stick around and find out. So, and on top of that, we have a special guest today, as you've seen in the thumbnail. Enjoy from AxiChat is here to bless us with his presence. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, man, for sure. But let's make our rounds. How's it going, Jess?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Spring has sprung, and yeah, it's tough to be inside right now because it's so nice outside. But it's good to be here.
Nice. Glad to have you here too, man. And Fancy Hat, how's it going?
Yeah, I agree. It's really nice over here as well. Glad everyone is here with us today.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. So much is happening in the space. So many projects are developing and growing alongside each other. That's my broader opinion of what's going on here. But there's some general metaverse news that we can get into that's happening around the world in different countries. And if we want, we could just hop into that and just start talking, sharing some opinions. How does it sound, guys?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So I think we have a clip here from Janet Yellen, who's the Secretary of the Treasury, the 78th for those of you who might not know the exact number. And she was on CBS, I think, or CNBC.
For you,
one of those. Here we are. Yeah, here we go.
CNBC. And let's see what she has to say.
Yeah.
Couldn't get through an interview without asking about crypto, but in particular, Russia just said that they would accept Bitcoin as a payment for their energy resources. What does that say to you about where we are in the crypto conversation?
Well, crypto is obviously grown by leaps and bounds, and it's now playing a significant role, not really so much in transactions, but in investment decisions of lots of Americans. And the president just issued a couple of weeks ago an executive order tasking us and other agencies with thinking about the regulation of crypto.
I mean, you're less skeptical about it than in previous. I mean, we've been talking about it together for a long time now, and I think you've had a skepticism about crypto technology.
I have a little bit of skepticism because there are, I think, valid concerns around it. Some have to do with financial stability, consumer investor protection, use for illicit transactions and other things. On the other hand, there are benefits from crypto, and we recognize that innovation in the payment system can be a healthy thing. We would like to come out eventually with recommendations that will create a regulatory environment in which healthy innovation
and then finally,
yeah, I think the biggest thing they don't like about it is the lack of ability to control it.
Pretty much. Everyone needs to get their hands in the cookie jar to profit in some way or to keep control over, pick a cookie with a name tag on it. But yeah, there seems to be the rhetoric, like one of our commenters was sharing, is definitely has changed since I guess we've all got involved, as this was never really being talked about in this way on the news ever. And
Yeah.
and I take what Janet Yellen is saying as them playing more of a significant role in into the investment decisions of a lot of the country's citizens, which government usually kind of always does. And I'm not always in favor of things that happen like that, but that's just that's just how they roll. But yeah, any other opinions on?
I think it's just at the point now where they realize that there's no stopping the train and the train's going to leave the station without them on it. And so now you kind of have to take part. The piece that's kind of surprising to me at the very beginning was it said that Russia is looking to accept crypto payments for energy. That is actually surprising to me because their move before was that they were only going to accept energy payments in rubles that help, in other words, to force the rest of the world to prop up the ruble. And to give their currency some lift. But now that they're looking to accept it in crypto, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Sorry, you can go, Ray.
No, I was going to say, and similarly with Colorado, the state of Colorado and Miami, they're also looking towards, and probably it'll happen, where you'll pay your taxes in crypto or Bitcoin, maybe specifically. And we just see it all over. Like, pick a country, whether it's positive or negative, the topic of Bitcoin or crypto in general is being talked about and paid more attention to. But,
Turkey just completely flipped. They were against it, and then now they're all for it. So
right.
we're starting to see it in a lot of countries.
Yeah, man. And enjoy. Jump in whenever, man. If you got any thoughts on it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's like you said, it's interesting the change in rhetoric. The rhetoric has always kind of been protection of the U.S. consumer, which, as we've all had conversations about in the past, like that doesn't feel like they're actually protecting us, right? They're actually kind of throttling us in a lot of different ways. They're throttling growth, they're throttling profit, they're throttling ability for new projects to take off. But they do seem to be changing that rhetoric a little bit more towards less like, hey, this is unstable, this is something that you shouldn't mess with, and more towards like, we need to be a little bit more discriminatory about which projects we actually allow. And so that's a good thing. Like, I think we were talking about it before the show started, but the more big pockets, the more like of these people's friends that are involved in crypto, whether it's banks that are now allowing this profit to run through their systems, or just other people who are heavily invested in it. Like, you don't want to shut down your friends. So at this point, like, there's enough investment in the space that you kind of have to weigh those pros and cons. Is it something that we want to completely shut down, or do we want to allow it and again, like you said, keep lining our pockets?
Yeah, the bottom line is usually the most important, and the double speak just becomes more and more evident the more you stay involved in the space and realize what's happening over the course of time. You might not catch it right away, coming in today as like just a newborn baby in crypto, anything. But yeah, I was always hearing before over anything else that Bitcoin was just drug, black market related. And it's just changed so much since then. So it's good to see, but on the flip side, we'll see how and where it all goes, and how it might impact us as a community, because it is a lot of us. Go ahead.
The thing that stands out for me is that they've been towing the line that it is a source of corruption. But what I see blockchain as a whole doing for government is being an anti-source of governmental corruption. If you put voting on chain, you put government spending for projects on chain where people can easily verify where money is going and spent, that should be the thing they're most afraid of, is their own corruption.
Yeah, well, with these CBDCs, right, the central bank dollars that they're going to essentially create, will it make any other like DAI standard, dollar coins, Terra Luna or UST, pick one, right? If that's out there, USDC, will they become obsolete? Like, there's a lot of conversation to be had around them creating the currency for the people, where they have that ultimate control, where it wouldn't matter if everything is transparent because they control everyone's money. Literally, it's all you could just flip the switch on or allow you to use at any amount. So it could be a dystopian type of conversation, but over the course of my life, I've seen a lot of things that just went into this type of area of conversation, where it's just like you don't necessarily know, and you lose more and more of, I'm going to say, your freedoms, but what you're able to do in private, I guess might be a better way to say it.
Yeah.
You know, a big change over the last couple of years too is, you know, initially it was a different kind of money, right? Bitcoin, then you had all the knockoffs, the Litecoin, the Feathercoin, the dark coin. Like there was everything. Like everybody was just trying to create a new currency, and now it's turned into utility. Like everything that's coming out nowadays, it's not trying to replace the system. It's trying to add something to the system. It's trying to create a new, you know, a new type of internet. And so it's, you know, it's not a direct threat, I don't think, to what they're doing. And again, you know, there's benefits to building this new internet. There's like monetary benefits that, you know, they're starting to see. So, you know, the conversation shifted. That's all there is to it.
Right. Yeah, and there's other kind of notable headlines that we can go through here. I guess
Yeah.
the next.
One thing that came to my mind was the big milestone crypto trade at Goldman Sachs this week. The bank's first over-the-counter crypto transaction could spur other people to follow.
For sure, there's a lot of ducks in a row here, with big institutions and governments who are ready to come in or have been over time. It's just a matter of time before it's a mass adoption in the sense of people's minds, not maybe their own personal investments. But then, yeah, there's another headline here that we can talk about. Fancy, if you want to.
Yeah, so two 20-year-olds were charged in a 1.1 million NFT scam, just jumping ship straight after launch, pretty much.
Are these the people that Janet Yellen are talking about, that they need to help? Because it's headlines like that just definitely don't help the case for the opposite end of the spectrum of not wanting the government to be as involved. But
yeah, these are Frosties, and these are what they created. 1.1 million total.
I wonder what the proposed utility for that NFT was in particular, because I mean, there's nothing that's outstanding about that as a PFP. Like, oh, I got to get one. You know what I mean? So I'm curious what it was about that project as a whole. I only heard about this today pre-show as you guys were sharing this with me. And so I immediately went to start to look up the actual district attorney's office complaint to just see what it was specifically about them. And I guess that the biggest takeaways from reading that is the reason that they were a target is because it was blatant that they packed up shop within hours of their mint. And not only that, but even within the past 2 months that they've been being investigated, they went from Frosties to, let's go to a new element, Embers. That was, so they're in the process of trying to create another one that looked like it was set up the exact same way. So it's interesting that if, depending upon what happens with this, it's going to set some kind of precedent for how they approach potential rug pulls in the future.
Yeah, and we kind of have been exposed to this side of NFT gaming, crypto, just a bunch of rug pulls, and they're just all over the place, and they continue to happen till this day. But this seems to be the first that I know of that became, written in an article and publicized in this way. But I saw you enjoy.
I was just going to say, there's plenty of artists that just make the art, release the art, and that's all there is. And there's no promises behind it. It would have been so easy for them to not make whatever promises they made, not close up the Discord, just let the community kind of yammer on afterwards. And they didn't. So when they're looking at regulating now the NFT space in addition to the broader cryptocurrency space, how do they apply those rules broadly? Right, because there's so much different utility, and some of the stuff doesn't even need utility. It's just nice to look at. That is the utility.
Right, but in the article, I quote, Marcellus King, a first-time collector who lost about 3,000 of Ether in the rug pull, told Blockworks that he is glad that justice was served to these scammers, and then I'm also glad that others have been put on notice in this Wild West. That is authorities that the authorities are watching, King said. So this, so do you guys think that this is going to bring honesty and accountability to the marketplace? If this is going to be the route that all of this takes place, if we see this all the time, what is the association going to now be? And
I think we're in the Wild West still, and we're going to be for quite some time. And I think that what will happen is we will see an evolution. We're going to see it becoming increasingly difficult for projects to gain success without the founders being fully doxxed, so that people at least know who they are and feel like there's some path to accountability should they not deliver on their promises, or at least move in that direction as if they're trying to support the project. And I think we're going to see that with a lot of stuff within the NFT gaming space, with so many projects out there basically creating Ponzi's by layering stuff on top to make it look like it's something else. But Ponzi by definition is an investment opportunity that where the people that get in early are the ones that win, and someone's eventually left holding the bag because it's a project that is funded ongoing by increasingly adding new people. And if you can't add new people, someone's eventually left out. So I think we're going to see every shade and color of opportunities and wrongdoings, and even lots of people attempting to do good as well. But it's still the Wild West, so we're going to see it all.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got to say, I think as far as being criminals is concerned, the biggest mistake these guys made is doing it out of New York, right? Like
right.
the thing is we're in a global economy right now. This is a global industry. And I still can't get telemarketers to stop calling my phone 20 times a day. Like there's other countries that don't have this stuff regulated. So on one side, the more press this gets, the more other places are just going to try and follow suit because they see that there's money involved.
Yeah.
Right. And forgive me, Andrew, I didn't give a whole backdrop of your expertise and history in the space when we first started. But this whole episode and what we're talking about is leading up to why Enjoy is here in the first place. Because when we talk about scams or rug pulls, in my mind, I'm thinking, what better projects to be invested in what other projects are there out there to be invested in other than the ones that are the biggest, that have the treasure, their coffers filled with enough money and enough people on their team, although they might take a long while to satisfy what now it feels like 80% of people for just the price go up or price, when price goes up or down. They'll be around here for the long haul, and these are the typical projects that we kind of cover and that we also have in our Discord. And it's just like, where else would you place your money in anything NFT gaming related if it's not, if 80% of these projects are rug pulls or slow rug pulls over the course of many months or even years, as we might have experienced before. So so when it comes to information as a whole and education, there's definitely a lack of that in the space. As we're dispersed as investors or gamers to go into different Twitters, different Discords, different YouTubes, different Twitchs. It's just kind of a clusterfuck, in my opinion. And it takes a lot of time to do enough research to feel confident, and then also keep up with a project to then also feel more confident of keeping your money in that project for the long haul. So, so Enjoy. You can hang with us after the fact when we finish to continue talking about other games and to share opinions. But if you want, we can open the floor to you and just give yourself a introduction here.
Yeah. I guess that's helpful rather than forcing people to listen to my opinions without any credentials, right? I've been in this space since 2013. Definitely fell into it like people do nowadays, right? It's just interesting. There's money to be made, whatever. I immediately kind of figured out that my biggest advantage was to help the projects that I think have the best shot at succeed. Through education, through moderating and helping out the communities and that sort of stuff. Back then, the communities were a lot smaller and there were a lot more scammy projects out there. Again, education has always kind of been the thing that I keep coming back to. Followed it through 2017. Actually, early on there, I was as part of the education and building in the space and building just to help the space. I ran a mining pool for script coins called
Nice.
Pool Party. Did that for quite a while until that kind of phase died out, and again, just kind of kept going back to building and helping build forums and that sort of stuff. So bring us to the play to earn phase, and I'm still around and fall into, back in 2017 there wasn't a whole lot of stuff going on. 2018 it started really popping up. I was getting involved with Gods Unchained and War Riders, and then Axie Infinity popped up. Hence my background here. So got involved with Axie, and again, it was there's kind of all these different places that the information was coming out. It was coming out on Twitter, it was coming out on the Discord. They had a Telegram. There were a lot of people were trying to start up wikis and YouTube and all this other stuff, and so I kind of made a site to bring all that information into one place, make it easy to comprehend. That's also why we started Axie Chat, which is a weekly podcast about Axie and the community and what's going on. Partially also because while you're trying to keep the community entertained or engaged, and Axie's been around for a long time. A lot of projects have been around a long time now, but there's always gaps of exciting stuff going on. I'm sure that's part of the reason why you guys are doing your show, right? It's to educate your community while there's nothing exciting to do, while there's no game to play, right? So that's kind of why we started this up, and now we've been going on for 82 episodes. I don't know. That's pretty much my background. Any questions about any of that? Did I cover it all?
Yeah. You want to talk more on the websites you built, like Axie Edge and the traffic, and potentially. Well, I guess I can continue on with the questions because we'll get there eventually.
Sure.
But yeah, thanks for sharing and giving that backstrap. I've been in the space since October 2020 when it comes to Axie Infinity, but I've been since 2016, late 2016. So when I got on board to the NFT gaming space, I came across the only source of information on YouTube videos when it came to Axie Infinity was Enjoys and Bayonars, who's the co-founder of Axie Chat as well. And I flew through all their information to make, I'd say, a calculated risk at the time with putting all of my ETH into Axie Infinity. So it was great to have someone who was talking not just about hyping the project to pump their own bags, but what the project is actually working towards building, and then what their plans are to actually see that through in time. With funding and all the things we know today that a project needs to grow.
And it's funny because at the time, there were only really 3 or 4 projects that were out there. So
Yeah.
you had the time to go and research and try and figure things out, right? A lot of times you go into Discord and just do a couple searches to really understand what the motivations between the founders are. But it's still buried in there. But now we've got hundreds, if not getting close to 1,000 different play to earn games or blockchain type gaming games. It's just getting difficult, man. Which is why podcasts like yours are so important to keep that information flowing.
Yeah, and it's not even just any podcast; it's the ones that stand the test of time and try their best to, whether it's theorycraft or talk about news that's trending. A lot of times with streams that I've watched, they're not really doing anything but what every other streamer or content creator is doing, which is keeping up with the updates that come out from the particular projects that are building, that are also learning along as they go. So it's almost like we're all on this big train together, and we're trying to just help the space and its narrative just stay positive.
Yeah,
on some level.
and that's another thing too, because there does seem to be some tribalism, right? Like
Absolutely.
games are definitely backing each other, or you're backing the game that you've invested in, and everything else is garbage. That mentality seems to come out quite a bit, but in reality, it's the play to earn or the play and earn space versus the world, right? We're trying to convert. I mean, maybe 5%, if that, of people have started playing these types of games. Hopefully a lot more soon, but we're definitely going up against a lot of gamers who don't see the value. They think it's a scam. They whatever. They don't realize that there's this long storied history of back in RuneScape and Warcraft of people taking their gold out and selling it, or selling accounts. There used to be really poor ways to go about this, and this space is just making it easier. And again, with Axie, and I know that's not what your audience is really focused on necessarily, but we had the documentary that Yield Guild Games put out maybe a year ago or so now.
Yeah.
Documenting how people in the Philippines were paying bills through playing a video game, and that sort of education is huge. It wasn't necessarily just about Axie. It was about that this is what this space can actually accomplish. But there's still a lot of headwinds for us to go against.
Absolutely. I saw you just before Enjoy started. Did you have any thought?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, one of the things that I saw immediately coming into the space when it comes to content creation is when a person is involved in a project that all they have to say is good stuff about the project. And I don't feel like that serves a project. And so, the way I approached it was just sharing what I saw, good or bad. And it leans towards, a lot of times people think that I'm hypercritical of projects, but for me, I look beyond the project and also at the industry. And my question that I always ask is what this project doing serving the industry as a whole? And if I believe that there's not enough people that are even within the communities of these existing projects, if there's not enough people within the community that are holding those projects accountable, those projects won't turn out to be the best they could be.
Yeah, and that's a big red flag because there's a lot of hopium and then people coming in and just promoting and supporting a game for maybe reasons of just pumping their own bags or just because they just weren't here long enough to see all the promises that weren't kept along the ride with developers and raising or selling NFTs or raising money in whatever way. So we could name almost every project that we're all invested in, or I can, and pull something out of the hat of they didn't follow the roadmap, the timeline, the white paper, and what was said or wasn't said or implied, like or wasn't shared at all, which should be shared because there's a lot of projects taking different routes to grow their project in the way they see fit with what they know and what they have at their disposal. So I feel like since the NFT space for just profile pictures came around, up until now, I feel like we're all spoiled as a community because now every new project that's coming out, we're expecting a token, we're expecting some type of DeFi integration where you can earn and then get a liquidity pool token if you do that. But it's just like it's so much that a newcomer needs to learn, but then everyone who has been here expects. And then now these projects that are trailblazing this whole industry and supporting it the best way they know as we're all growing together are being attacked in a way, but you can't really there needs to be a balance, and I just see the sentiment of the community leaning more towards like a negative one and seeing more of a, like thinking in a more one-dimensional way instead of like broadening their horizons as far as like investment for the long term if that's what they're considering and only thinking about. But if we're talking about games in general, just wait, there will be great games, right? If you don't have any money, you just have to wait, right? And then just support the developers who are trying their best. So that's my 2 cents on it.
It's really interesting. You brought up a couple different points, but it kind of made me think like, one bad actor, and maybe I'm going back to the Frosties thing, right? It's like one bad actor kind of ruins the reputation of the whole space. So, you've got things like, bad profile picture projects that make people think that an NFT is just a picture, right? They don't understand all these other things that can accompany it, or that games can be built on top of it, or that they can be used as passes to, enter events, whatever. You've got different tokens in the past that have done rug pulls, and people just see, crypto as something that's kind of a passing fad. It's not going to be around forever. You see all these things, and like again, if a game makes it, if a game pulls in 100 million players, like that's one example. But all it takes is a couple bad actors to really screw things up. And that bring it back to the community, like we're in charge of making the space accessible for new players coming in, and there is so much to learn. You have to learn about wallets, you have to learn about the different tokens associated with your particular game, you have to learn about all the NFTs and any particular economical advantage that different NFTs give that game. There's just so much to learn outside of actually just the gameplay. And so if people come into the space and we're doing this kind of infighting, bantering thing about, no, your game's garbage, your game's garbage, like it doesn't help any of us. It just turns people away.
Yeah, for sure. And that
I think the biggest thing that I look for is not whether a game is good or bad really gets down to the person that gets value out of the game. So
Right.
if a project starts, the thing that I look for most is, do the words of what the development team has said about the project, do they match their behavior over time? That's the biggest thing that I'm paying attention to, because there's going to be a lot of things you're going to get wrong. But if you're way off track from the things that you said you set out to do and that you intend to do, if they're completely off track, then that to me is cause for alarm. But whether or not a game is meaningful and enjoyable to play, that's going to be right down to the individual. And as long as a project, I think a project that's doing fairly right now, which we saw mentioned here just a moment ago, is Illuvium. I think that they're doing some pretty awesome stuff to watch. Any project that at least is trying to hold true to what they set out to do, even though they're going to go over bumps and discover things along the way that they didn't realize, and wallets get hacked and technology fail and things like that, those are just growing pains. But again, for me, I just focus mostly on, is the project in the team staying on track with what they committed to their community?
Pretty much. And that's all you can ask for right now. As you just mentioned, the tech is early, everyone's early, everyone needs to learn. So it's like, what else do you really expect from a project if you don't know yourself as much as they do as the developers? It's just like it's kind of backwards in my head sometimes. But moving on to the next question, Enjoy. What what about your real world experience lends to what you've been doing in the Web3 space up until now? Like, do you have any? You said earlier there's no necessary licenses or credentials, but what have you been personally doing? Is whether it's website creating or marketing of some sort?
Yeah, I would consider myself a lifetime jack of all trades. If I'm interested in it, I'm gonna, learn how to do it at least a little bit dangerously. Again, I've been in the space for a long time. I think experience definitely lends something there, right? You see things that work and you see things that don't. I've also, and we'll get to it in a little bit why it's important, but I've also, back in my college days, I was in, affiliate marketing and website building, and like, the internet was still relatively new at that point in time. Like, we had Facebook, we had MySpace, like there was definitely stuff going on. We didn't have what we have now. But everybody was trying to make a name for themselves back then. So I definitely, bumped around then. I, paid my beer money in college with affiliate marketing money. Like, I scrapped around enough to, again, be dangerous a little bit. Since then I've held marketing roles, I've held sales roles for enterprise companies. So I know how to network, and honestly, in this world, that's half the battle, is knowing the right people and having the right conversations and connecting the right people together. I've done a little bit of everything, really, is what it comes down to it. But again, I think that experience of seeing what works in the space and what doesn't, and what communities, like, what they need, what they thrive
Yeah.
on, that's a big piece of it as well.
Yeah, being diverse in that way in this day and age is definitely a must. So if you feel like you're lacking anything out there, just work on it a little bit more. um, so what are your okay? So Axie Chat, we see it behind you.
Yeah.
What is it about? How did it start? And yeah, where are you now?
Yeah. So Axie Chat's a podcast that we started again. I think I mentioned
Right.
it earlier. I think we're on episode 84 going on this week. So, it's a once weekly podcast every Tuesday. So that means we've been doing it almost, what, a year and a half now, almost 2 years.
Right.
Consistency is definitely key in this space. just going and going. But yeah, like I said, one of the biggest issues that we saw is that lack of education, new people coming in and not knowing where to find that information. We were very engaged in the community, the conversations that were going on. Really being detailed with the notes that were coming in. Just random comments that the team was making that wasn't getting documented anywhere. So we were kind of putting all this information together and trying to make it easy and accessible to new people coming into the space. And then again, there was a long period of time where there were no updates. There was nothing to really play, or there was nothing for the community to be excited about. So, we started doing like little contests and promotions, and bringing on new guests and doing roundtables with experienced people to just kind of again make it a little bit more fun and interesting, while there was nothing going on. Detailing what the community's doing versus what the team's doing. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's still going. We don't plan on ever stopping. Honestly, I don't think Axie's going anywhere for a long time. And I could say that about a lot of the major games that are out there now. It's nice that it's not these kind of small one-man teams anymore, like it was in the beginning.
Right.
My wallet is full of NFTs from projects that did not make it. So it's nice to be confident that these projects aren't going anywhere nowadays.
Right. Especially with how early it is. People coming in, like I always mentioned, might not even believe what we're saying for these bigger projects. But compared to 2018, the amount of people on the team, the amount of money they had, it was just otherworldly. You would really be looked at as if you were crazy sharing any of these projects back then to
Yeah,
anyone. So yeah, so it's a blessing to have AxiChat, and every other game that I've been exposed to, there seems to be this happening where there's groups of people or individuals creating content where they're the go-to, the most knowledgeable, or the ones that are most consistent. And I think it's amazing. Pick a network and a game that's probably the number one game or number two, and you could find some great resources and individuals making Medium articles or actual videos like this, talking about the economy of the game, theory crafting, speculating on what's next, having developers on as interviewees, and the founders alike. So the information is out there, and you might be searching many places to all around the metaverse to look for it all. But Enjoy is here not just to talk about AxiChat, but he's also been developing a new project that is launching tomorrow that we all
yeah,
on the back end were able to use and experience. And I think it's fantastic. In my opinion, right off the bat, was it's going to be a library of information that is what everyone is already trying to figure out and learn via their multiple social media accounts. We could talk about specific projects later, and your opinion on the whole gaming NFT space as a whole. But if you want, we can talk about the project, and
sure.
you could lead on with it.
Yeah, one thing I'll throw in there about AxiChat, and the only reason I'm doing it is because you mentioned how a lot of other projects are starting to kind of have community focused podcasts and
Mm-hmm.
really work on this information gathering and consolidation. It almost brought a lot of validity to what the team was doing too. Back when we started this in 2019, 2020. Either way, whatever. But we were mentioned. I got to look at like some investor decks that they had put out. When they were looking for funding, and even in the Binance launch for Axis, like AxiChat was mentioned as a strong pillar of their community. And at the time we were like, oh, cool, we got mentioned. But it really if anybody out there is a big fan of a game and is just looking to make an impact both on the current community, help with retention or help with education or all that sort of stuff. Dude, doing one of these it's easy. It really is. If you take the time and you pay attention to what's going on, it's easy to have a good half an hour conversation about something once a week. But it's so important. It really is to and guys, you guys have such professionalism here. I'm not saying what you do is easy, but to be having the conversations and the community is just so willing to jump in and have those conversations with you. That's what I mean. Like bringing everybody together.
Right.
It's an easy task that has just such a lasting I don't know effect on the overall game ecosphere. Um, but yeah, I mean, jumping in. So we're starting a project, and as we were kind of discussing, we've been running AxiChat for a while, and we kind of had this feeling like, again, there's so much fragmentation in the space. We can't do this for every game that we're interested in. We can't do this podcast. We can't do this information gathering. Like we need to kind of build a bigger community of this whole play to earn space in order to make it more accessible to people. Um, and I think Ray, you had mentioned it earlier. Like right now, when new people are coming into the space, there's just this um, just disparate sea of information, and it's in Discord, it's on Twitter, it's on Medium, it's on Substack, it's on Telegram, it's on YouTube. Like everybody's doing their own thing, and it's you got to do so much Google searching to actually get to the information you're looking for. Especially if it's on a new chain, people need to know how to set up a wallet. Like all this stuff is like it's out there, but it's hard to access and not easy for people to find. And then comes back to the issue with this kind of infighting between games. Like yeah, we're always going to have I'm most excited about a certain game, you're most excited about a certain game, but we're working together, and that's what's important. And so, can I share my screen? Can I give
Sure.
some leaks here for
Hell yeah, we want
people
all the
watching?
leaks.
All right. So we started this project called Blockchain Arcade. And again, while we were talking, we've been in the space for a long time. We easily could have, gathered a team and tried to make our own game. We've seen what other people have done wrong. We could have done a profile picture project. We could have done something more Web3. But what the space really needs right now is it needs that Web2 outreach. I know I'm not sharing. Ray's messaging me. Share your
You want
screen.
share.
All right, working on it.
So
Um,
yeah. Now, while you're doing
Go
that, I was
ahead.
just to say, does anyone else before Enjoy shows a walkthrough of what he has and what he's been building? What are your opinions on that of what we're talking about? Like just learning about a project, the adventure of jumping into a new one. For a lot of times,
Yeah.
I'm stressed out. As much as I want to invest in a new project because I can, and I'm grateful financially that I can, and I like it. It's just like I have to do so much work, and it's kind of tedious.
Yeah, half the work for me doing research on a new project is finding unbiased or thoughts about a project that exercise a little bit of critical thinking. Meaning, if I just go and the only research I find is just fanboys, it's not really helping me get to the basis of what the risk and reward and what people really think of the project. So yeah, I think that community shows like this where people do share those ideas, a website where you could have conversation about it that isn't just conversation owned by community specifically related to that project, but something that is removed from it. I think that's needed. And of course, if it's also something that's going to be educational, that helps the industry as a whole because it becomes a benefit to those onboarding into the space, gamers that know nothing about crypto or people
Right.
that are interested in metaverse related projects because they've heard there's potential opportunity, but they don't know where to start or the protocols or the things to look out for. So any content like this, I think is a big help to the industry as a whole.
For sure. Without any further ado, here we are.
there we are. Yeah, I'll Whitticus, I'll just say too, like I feel you, man. And this was a big part of the reason why we're doing this is like I just feel scatterbrained all the time. Like I want to know everything that's going on. Like this is my space. I quit my job to work in this space. Like this is what I want to be doing full time and know everything that's going on so I can help other people. But it's impossible at this point. And there needs to be a better way to kind of aggregate that information, and we as a community kind of need to all chip in a little bit to do that. So whether my platform is the right one or somebody else comes out with something else, like it's all a benefit to the space. But me myself as one person, I can't sit and update a thousand different jobs all at a time. So we've got a lot of super talented and thoughtful content creators. People already writing guides on again Medium and whatever, like all these different places that there really is no benefit. It doesn't help bring new people into the game unless they're already browsing Medium or unless they see your tweet about it. And so I kind of want to provide that place that brings all of this information together for all this, the entire space. So real quick, yeah, you've got it up on your screen right now. This is launching tomorrow. Technically, it's already up, so you guys can create accounts if you want. But we're looking at the homepage. The hope here is again, you're going to have the news for everything in the space. So you don't need to set those Twitter alerts. You don't need to check in on the 150 discords like I have every single day. Dude, I've got so many red notifications, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's hopefully to make it a little bit easier to kind of bring all that stuff together. One of the cool things that we did here too, so obviously we've got the news for the games that we're covering right now. Anybody can add this news, so if you see an update first, great, throw it in here. That's awesome. It again helps the whole space. But the cool thing is, like, if you join one of these games, if you decide to follow them, you can actually go to My News and now see only the games that you care about. This is the snapshot of the stuff that you care about seeing. So that's a huge benefit, and we've got a lot of different ways to filter that as well. So
what is the actual domain URL?
blockchainarcade.gg.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Missed that.
It's all good.
Yeah, so Ray's criticized me when I was showing him in the past. He wanted me to bring you guys straight to the games. Again, we're covering about 10 to start. Just these are the popular ones, the ones that people asked for, the ones that people said, "Hey, I'm going to be releasing some guides for soon. Like, throw this on and we'll contribute." That's what we're starting with, just to keep the workload down a little bit. But we'll be adding at least a few a week is the goal, and eventually everything out there should be through here. And the benefit, sorry about this, you guys are seeing the back end, my moderator view and my test environment. But anyways, so we can actually come and filter through here for what chain you care about, what type of genre you care about. So make it a little bit easier to see what games are live and building, etc. And there is stuff out here. Obviously, we did some some competitive analysis to see what
Right.
other sites are out there right now. Obviously, you have DAP Radar. You have I see these comments, Mirandus. If you want it, we'll add it. Easy as that. If and the cool thing too is I can actually make if there's projects, and we've had some approach us already. Saying, "Hey, I want to be involved. How can we be involved?" I think SolarBots, their lead dev, is now managing the news. So we kind of put him in charge of the SolarBots thing. We gave him ownership over that specific game, so he can assign moderators and all this sort of stuff. So these game owners can actually get involved in building out these communities and moderating their own groups as well. But yeah, Mirandus can certainly get on. I've got a ton of friends who are highly involved with Mirandus. But all right, so let's jump back real quick, because again, I do think this is beneficial, being able to kind of sort by some of those features. We can add more down the line.
Right.
Jumping back into that,
Sure.
I think I had started on competitive analysis. There's other sites like DAP Radar,
Right. Crypto Slam is one.
PlayToEarn.net.
Yeah,
What was
there's
it?
a Crypto Slam is one that I
Crypt-
remember. There's a whole
Crypto
bunch,
Slam.
but yeah, if anyone in the community has any questions on as this is still very early, right? We're all
Super
still very
early.
early.
Yeah, this is soft launch territory.
Right. So I don't anyone jumping in right now or watching after the fact, that is definitely the case here. And as you said, the best type of people to update their personal games would be those community hired those community members hired by the particular games, as we know of in Star Atlas. I don't know about Mirandus per se, but we know that if there's anyone creating content, they can potentially be reached out to or pitched to update this site. So that information might be biased because it's an employee updating their own personal game with
Sure.
whatever updates, but it's not limited to that. It's anyone who's able to do that themselves. Third party, third opinions and second opinions are definitely needed in the space, as we were
I've
talking
had
about earlier.
since I started this, and what's great is I've had so many conversations, and it feels like hopefully people aren't just telling me what I want to hear, but it feels like everybody agrees that this is something that's needed. I've had content creators that are like, really want to start throwing stuff on here. I've had guilds that almost want to manage the games that they're involved with, right? Whether it's Axie or Splinterlands or Defy Kingdoms, like, the guilds that are kind of, really important to some of these economies. They want to continue to be leaders in that space and kind of moderate and manage these different groups. So
Right.
really cool to see who's coming out of the woodwork and wants to help with this sort of stuff.
For sure.
But yeah, so Crypto Slam, all that sort of stuff, like they're very focused on the economics. They're very focused on the token price and the amount of people involved, like how many people own the NFTs or how many people are playing. But they're missing a lot of, again, that education side of things, which is why right now we're focusing on the news. We're focusing on the on like tutorials and guides, and we're focusing on forums so people can come in and ask questions. And I mean, even like you said, if people want to be harsh, maybe that's a good spot to kind of air those grievances, because then you've got other people in the community who are either agreeing or maybe they're misguided. So super helpful. But for instance, going to Star Atlas, right? So we've got the latest news from Star Atlas, but now we're kind of in Star Atlas land. So we've got, you know, an overview of who's been joining, what's been going on here. A lot of additions recently, a lot of new people. We've got the news section, so we can see everything that's recently happened. And now people are starting to throw guides in here too. So, you know, getting started with Star Atlas, and you know, here we've got this guide here. And then, so again, we're in Star Atlas land. Now you've got, you know, we've got forums. Again, super new, haven't really announced this yet, but people can throw in there. And then Star Atlas events. So Metaverse Nomads podcast on Sundays. You know, and then the Atlas Brew, which is through the Discord, which I threw up there. All right. Punjab, I see you'll take over Miranda's. Hit me up after this.
Awesome.
Twitter or Discord. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
shout out
that.
to Punjab. He has his own YouTube channel, and we can
Cool.
hang out on events right now to maybe talk about just the differences and the ability to do written and then also your video. There's a video component to this. If you have a YouTube, anything video content related, you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, so
Guides.
I think it was some of the maybe Axie guides. Let me see here. If we go into Axie again, now we're in Axie land, right? This is everything pertaining to the game. So and so one of the points here is like, again, a lot of the information right now is really held in these kind of black boxes that Google doesn't index. So Discord, Telegram, not indexable. All those conversations that you've had, all those people teaching you how to play the game, that's gone forever. As far as you know, people who are new to the game and searching Google for information are concerned. So you know, the hope is to be able to bring, you know, if somebody's searching for the news or if somebody gets linked one of these articles, then you want to get started. Hey, I'm just going to go to the guides and see what's up. Like, how, you know, what are these other people saying about getting started, or you know, maybe investing in the best axes or whatever. But yeah, so you know, for YouTubers, you can just throw in your this old one I did. Let's see. Right. So you can just throw in the link to your YouTube. It automatically blows this up to you know, full video size. You're still getting the ad revenue from YouTube. You're still getting the views, even though they're on a different site. And then you can kind of, again, elaborate. You know, one of the things that a lot of people on YouTube aren't getting is search engine traffic. And Ray, I told you this, but my old site, Axie Edge, don't go there. It's terrible now. I was in the middle of a refresh when we started Axie Chat, so it's just been gone. But anyways, I had some guides up there 2 years ago that are still getting, you know, 60, 100,000 views a month through Google traffic.
Yeah.
And so people who are just throwing up a video and not elaborating, and not having it in a site like this where people can kind of click through to what they're interested in, right? Like if you're on the homepage, you see something interesting in terms of news. It's super easy to jump over here and see these guides. But
not to step on you, but
yeah.
Jess, if you want to talk about Mirandus.life, right? So there's another story right there where there was a website created that there's so much more traffic coming in to learn about what the game entails, whether it's the NFTs, the description, what they do, the economy, if there's a white paper or not. And yeah, you could talk on that as an example for what's I guess Enjoy was just mentioning with his first website.
Yeah, I mean, it's a site that I mean, there hasn't been too much to update, in there hasn't been a lot of Mirandus updates, but to this day, having built that site just around the deeds and the buildings and the avatars, the site actually ranks higher than Gala Games and Mirandus for that project, simply because it was built in such a way that it gave the information people were looking for, and it still gets a lot of monthly traffic.
Yeah. So to Enjoy's point, and you can continue too with just how this is the most beneficial way in the long run to have information.
Yeah. And the other thing too that I like about this site is that the site itself gives content creators a way to repurpose their content as well, because one of the values that it adds is the curation, meaning like a single source where you can go and get lots of content, as where content creators will often only focus on a particular element on their own sites and their own properties and their own channels. So it's actually a value add to this site, a value add to the content creators, and absolutely a value add to the people looking for this information and to be able to find it in one place.
And
Right
to the
on.
games,
Yeah.
one of the, again, Axie Infinity, that's kind of been my sweet spot since I started. I'm involved with a lot of different games, but just through the nature of the podcast, that tends to be the one I talk about the
Right.
most. But they've definitely had a lot of kind of low periods and a lot of very, very high periods. And in terms of like customer retention, in terms of like let's start on the customer retention side of things, right? Like if you get bored with a game, you're going to move off to another game. But if you see cool stuff happening with that one that you've played in the past, like new DLC comes out, new content comes out, like maybe you're a little bit more interested in jumping back in there because you've got the experience. Maybe you still have some assets left over. Before, when it's just Discord or even Twitter, like there's so much information flow on Twitter. It's unless you're on like the moment that they tweet, like a lot of times you don't
Yeah.
see it, right? And a lot of times when I leave a specific game's Discord, I never go back to it just because there's new stuff that pops up every day. So by putting all this stuff together, you might say that maybe I'm going to lose somebody from Axie Infinity to goes over to Illuvium or Star Atlas or Splinterlands or whatever. But I think you're actually you're retaining people long term. You're keeping people in the play to earn space, right? The other thing too is like, okay, so maybe I get started on Axie Infinity because I like the concept, but that's not the type of game I typically play the most. So now you're browsing through other different games. It's kind of like the old like, I don't know if you ever rented games from Blockbuster, but like I used to browse through the aisle
Yeah.
until I saw something that caught my eye, right?
Yep.
And right now, again, everything's so fragmented. Everything, like, people refuse to work together, and so that's what I'm trying to bring together here.
Yeah. First, my first thought was the quarrel between Illuvium and Axie when Illuvium first came onto the scene and how they came in guns blazing. And this might be history that a lot of people don't know because the space grew so much since. And it shouldn't dictate if you actually visit this website in particular. But the tribalism of the space as a whole would prevent some people from taking action in a way that helps them learn more about what's happening as far as development across the space. So I noticed that as well, where if you stay neutral, you'll go much farther than
But
just being a. Yep. Go ahead.
But tribalism is even a natural part of gaming. I mean, look, even
Yeah.
guilds, and it's that's just kind of, they show up that way. It's like, it's like your favorite sports team, like you're going to defend it. So there's a lot of that going on. But for me, part of the gaming that I like right now is the industry as a whole and being able to look to see what's
Right.
growing and developing. So yeah, I think having a site that is neutral goes a long way towards serving the industry. Something that I look for anyway.
Right. So I look forward to seeing a lot more games that come onto the list there on the right hand side of the website. And again, I think you were mentioning anyone could pitch and start an ad at a game that they would like to update the community on.
Yeah, you can actually go in and create a game. I have to approve it right now. I don't want duplicates, and I don't want, I want people working together and not competing. And just, I guess, for ease of browsing as well. So I'll approve, and if you want to work with me and figure out how we can best market your game, or even just start throwing content on there, feel free. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of people who watch after the live in the Star Atlas community, and I know we had Zeke, who's the newt of the Star Atlas community. He was onboarded, and he's the one writing those articles that I think the last one you've posted. Enjoy. So if you're listening, Zeke, we'll also reach out to him, but he would be the perfect person to just man that news avenue for your website when it comes to like the official information coming from Star Atlas themselves. So that would be pretty sweet. He does great work. But a question I did have when it comes to the website is, what if, and I'm sure maybe others might have thought about this, although it's very early on still, what if people are here just to promote their content creator codes for whatever project it is, and what prevents this from snowballing into a self-promotion type of platform where you're getting just the same information you would be getting on a Discord or a Twitter, where it's just all over the place and you don't know which one's good or bad? Is there a rating system for any
Yeah,
uploads here?
yeah. So great point. And the content creator code sort of thing is definitely been a hot topic
Hmm.
in a lot of different communities, right? It's being added. I mean, it's in the traditional gaming space as well, so it's definitely been talked about a lot. In terms of what we're doing, I think adding your creator code, I think linking back to the original article is fine. Um, I'm not really too picky as long as the content is beneficial to the community. If you're just spamming, like that's a completely different story. And again, I've been giving out to games that have asked me or that I've talked to ownership, capabilities and moderator capabilities over their specific game. So they can kind of start. Again, as we get to thousands of games, this is going to be too much for a couple people to manage. So
Right.
trying to decentralize that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if we go into Star Atlas and the guides, you can rate all these things. You
Right.
can just add a review, add a star rating, and then the good stuff floats to the top. So ideally, in terms of like educating your community, right? If you're just browsing the news and you go over to guides, like the good stuff's going to be at the top. The most helpful stuff wins. Now you can still search through that stuff. You can still uh, I keep going back to Axie, but like in Axie, there's breeding, there's battling, there's different metas. Every season has a different meta of what Axies are good. There's utilizing the website because they've got their own wallet, they've got their own infrastructure and blockchain and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of different things that articles like need to be written for. But I think ideally the most helpful stuff will float to the top.
Is there an approval process for content creators, or is it just anyone that wants to contribute?
Right now, I do have content creator or approval set to these different guides. So basically, I get a notification. I scan through it, make sure there's no harmful links or anything like that. Ideally, in the future, I'll take that off, and maybe we'll have a couple guide rails set in the back end. But yeah, right now, if you post something, it might not show up for an hour or so.
Yeah. The only thing that concerns me there is that, man, we just live in this Wild West era of scams right now. And I mean, just look at the way that people try and abuse Discord. And so I think that ideally there would be some way to distinguish between who is a content contributor that is kind of pre-approved, they've been here a while, that you can trust what they're sharing rather than it looking like it's something that's of course not going to be official because this isn't
Yeah.
from the game creators themselves, but just so that it's not easy for someone to go and change up and post some links like you said that may be not so good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a conversation that we've had a lot. Me and my partner Baranar, we are going with the moderation route right now, just because it's the easiest to get this out to the public and see what adoption looks like and start getting feedback. And honestly, just we've had 2 conversations now. You've given me a lot of great ideas about how to handle that. So definitely keep an eye out. We'll make sure that it's safe moving forward. I think honestly that's been one of the biggest issues with some of the games that I've been a part of through Discord, or fake wallets, or bad exe download links, whatever.
Right.
Like that's been a huge problem. So we're definitely keeping an eye out for that problem.
Nice. I do like shout out to iGuard. The good thing this place, Blockchain Arcade, shows projects that prove some reliability yet. Of course, success will not be sure for all of them. So that's true. And you were saying that anyone could add any games, and you're looking for 5 a week that to be added.
Yeah, we want to make sure our workload to start is reasonable
Right.
until we
Right.
until we get some of these things in place. So we're planning on adding like 2 to 5 a week. But to start at the very least, it'll be stuff that people are requesting, or stuff that maybe a game says, hey, we can manage the news for this, or we've got a community that can jump in with these guides. Like that automatically takes a load off my back in terms of
Right.
getting this to a place where it's actually helpful. So I think from the beginning, that automatically kind of adds a hurdle for newer games getting started. But ideally down the line, I'd like to have those involved as well. We just kind of need, again, part of this is seeing what adoption looks like, and what makes sense, and breaking some eggs as we as we make some omelets.
Right. And to what iGuard was saying, that it's nice to see that the games that are there to choose from are the ones that, from my opinion, are the most reliable, that
Yeah.
have been around for the longest and have the largest communities, and the ones that put a lot of work in already. So you're it puts more trust into me knowing that you guys know, or the community already that's there, um, knows what they're doing when it comes to any games in the space as of now. Who knows where we'll go in the future, and what games are out there that are just as good. Like Heroes of Mavia come to mind, which is a pretty exciting game that I'm looking forward to play, which is the equivalent
You
of
just
Clash of
reminded me, I
Clans.
got to stake my land.
Yeah, man.
That land staking happened last night, and I was I was already
Yeah,
in bed.
yeah. It started yesterday for 90 days, so that's gonna be a long trek, but it goes by fast. But yeah, games that.
So
Mhm.
so you're gonna be dumping on me, is what you're saying. You got a day ahead of me.
Well, no, I'm
Get
not.
that
I'm not
gold
that big of a
statue and
dumper.
out.
No, I'm staying in, man. I want to see this whole thing unfold and evolve. So
Yeah, it
you
looks
do your
like a
due
great game.
diligence. Yeah, it does. So I look forward to that. And like we talked about before, even you showing the website, it's just so early that all you're really gonna get updates on are these projects that are well off in a different way than these projects that are starting yesterday, right, or a week before, that have a way smaller team. Like, a
Yeah.
lot of my attention doesn't go to really small games anymore because I'm so spread out and diverse in these major titles, that are actually putting in a lot of work and influencing the space, in a positive way. So
Yeah, I mean, regarding those small games or the scammy games, I could definitely see a future where we're, interviewing founders, or, making them docs to us, or whatever. Like, I don't really like that necessarily, being in crypto so long, but you know what I mean? Like, have some validity to what you're
sure,
saying. Make sure it's not just a rug pull before adding it to the site. Um, I don't know. We'll figure it out as we get to it.
for sure. What about links? The links do show over any particular uh, project that you're clicking on, right? So if we go to, I think it was Axie or even Star Atlas.
Uh,
Yeah, so there's links to the Discord, the Twitters, and the
Yeah, so
websites.
on this main page, we've got website, Twitter, Discord right now. We can add more. I want to make it a little bit cleaner, but right now that's the basic most people need.
Right. So yeah, man, it's great to know someone actually doing this in the space. There was a comment before saying that there's two other people or groups with similar goals by
Right?
OCG. So yeah, the more the merrier, and you can't go wrong with just having more information consolidated in one location to make better decisions for yourself. So more power to Enjoy and anyone else doing those types of things.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
I think. Sorry, Whitakus.
I was gonna say, I don't know how easy or difficult it would be to do, but one of the things that I think would be pretty awesome in these projects is to have an ideal of size of the community, like size of their following and scale of growth over time. I mean, that's at least gives you an idea of the support that a project has with their community. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that's something that could be done in any particular way, but that would be pretty cool to have.
The one thing I'll say about anybody else building something similar is, a project like this takes off, we all win. If you're invested in anything in play to earn that's, going to stand the test of time, it feels like we're still early in the space. It feels like a lot of these things are still building out core functionality. Making it easier for new people to approach them. Again, whether it's us that win this game, or another site, it benefits us all.
Yeah.
So no, there's no hard feelings about competition. That being said, we do have a lot of big plans here. Again, we're starting very Web 2, very basic to focus on bringing in what people actually want, which is the information. But we plan on hiring very quickly and developing this thing out with analytics and more
Right.
Web3 elements as we go on. So
Yeah, to talk on that topic, I remember talks in earlier in the week. You were mentioning how this is a very Web 2 feel. There's nothing Web 3 going on here. So if you can
not
elaborate on
yet.
that bridge, essentially of what blockchain arcades is going to be, where in time, what's the vision for any? You don't have to speak on anything particular, but I know there's probably be a lot of ideas and simple ones where, just for example, you can link up your wallet, right, in some way or fashion, just to log
Yeah,
in.
I'm not going to expand too much there. I need to keep some secrets.
We want leaks.
But one of the things, again, we're very Web 2. There's
Right.
there is, as some of these games get evolve, there is a lot that requires information about the different tokens and NFTs and stuff right now that, again, we don't have live data for on the site. So that's something we're going to be looking to add in the future. Analytics, utilizing that data, I think is really, there's a lot of really cool stuff that's not being done yet. But again, now that you mentioned competition, I got to keep some of this stuff locked up.
Probing questions. I see you. It's okay. Well, you're always welcome to come on and share the next alpha. So that's all. That's always great.
Awesome.
But yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to show on your shared screen when it comes to blockchain arcade?
I mean, that's the basis of it. A
Cool.
successful site at the very least, should be easy to get around. So don't want to throw a whole lot at you. I think we missed the events page, which we can sort by a bunch of different ways, or actually go into the game and see those. So
Right.
I think if people want to be more involved in their community and see what's going on, I think that's kind of a cool feature too. But yeah, I mean, more to come is really what it boils down to.
Yeah, so if you want, you can share your information, your handles for Twitch, your Discord, if anyone is interested in reaching out to you and potentially being the content creator, whether it's guides, forums, or events, if they have their
Yeah.
own YouTube channel, yeah, so they could reach out.
Yeah,
We'll
so I can be found on Twitter. My handle is enjoy, ENJOI crypto, or at enjoy crypto. And Discord, I mean, you can find me in the Axie Infinity Discord. Honestly, most of the games up here, you can find me in their Discord somewhere. So feel free to
Yeah,
search and shoot me a DM.
yeah, we'll have all that information in the description after the show. But yeah, I have another question for you just to wrap up, I guess, the blockchain arcade. But it's more of a general question where
Yeah.
your thoughts on the current NFT space, the NFT gaming space as a whole, but the good and the bad, or the bad, if you want to talk about any specific projects or the economies, like and where you might see the place evolving. I know we kind of touched on some certain topics here and there in the beginning, but yeah, what's your personal opinion and thoughts on the space, and then also what do you want to see come to fruition?
I think we're seeing a lot of long-term games biding their time, waiting for better economic models to come out. The new games, and again, they're starting every day. They're trying cool stuff. They're doing new things. Some of it's going to work, and a lot of it's going to fail. We've already seen failure at mass scale with some of these bigger games and some of the clones. So I think it makes a lot of sense for these games that have put a lot of time into development, making something fun, to buy their time on some of these these core components that you really can't really change later. I don't think that the space is going anywhere. I wouldn't have started the site if I if I did.
Quit your job.
I think, huh?
Or quit your job.
Or quit my job. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that we're at the start of something really special. It's been around for a long time, but this new technology is making it easier. I just expect it to grow and keep changing until we come up with some economic models that really make sense for it. And maybe that's just user liquidity and having more people involved, and just, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see, and just super exciting.
A side question: what's your personal genre of game? Like what do you prefer to play if all these games were economically sound and they were
Dude,
and we're in the 2050? We're in the
I've
year
been a
2050.
gamer forever. I tried streaming 12 hours a day, 5 years ago, just because I thought it'd be fun. I'll play anything from MOBA to first person shooter to MMORPG, literally anything under the sun. I play a lot of puzzle games on my phone. Like it doesn't matter.
Right.
As long as it's fun and interesting, and now has a token component. So
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you're free to hang around with us. We have some topics to talk about with Star Atlas, Illuvium, and some mini updates with Gala Games, and then Axie as well.
I,
And
I would. I was just getting texted from my
oh,
wife.
there you go.
She's dealing with two kids upstairs, so
Cool,
um,
cool.
I
No,
gotta
no
I
worries.
gotta go see what's up with that. But yeah, we'll be in touch, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Anytime, man. Enjoy.
Cheers.
All right, take care, guys. Good to
It
see
was
you.
great having you.
Bye.
Bye. So onwards. That was a nice bit there. Fancy hat.
Yeah, it was interesting. It's good to see community making resources and tools.
For sure, for sure.
So there isn't that much to cover in Star Atlas this week. There was the Busan Thriller price drop and the what is it? The Visas Ballad. That's it. Very cool looking ship, and I'm glad to see some Busans finally. It's quite pricey though, compared to what you can get, for example, like a Rainbow Visas, no, a
Right.
Rainbow Chi. Then I might pick up that one.
What class is this? This is a small.
Yeah,
it's-
so small fighter. That's why I compared it to the Rainbow Chi.
Gotcha. How does the Gao 1, since we had Gao 0, this is Gao 1, how are the prices and supply comparing to the first release? Has anyone noticed, I know the supply's gone up, which is to be expected because they're expecting growth. But have prices stayed somewhat similar for the same size of ship?
Well, it seems so. Yeah.
Around, yeah.
All these ships are pretty much going to sit on the market until they're bought. So they don't do anything until that happens, I guess. So it's not the worst case, not the worst thing when they have supply ready for the next bull market.
Right.
Yeah, there is a sea of discounts out there for the first Gao. And then we do have a lot of ships coming out this year, so look out for more discounts.
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting. We're in an interesting spot now where there is a whole lot of ships available on the market, and a lot of discounts, as you mentioned, for the existing ships. I haven't followed lately within Foundation or within the Star Atlas Discord, but has there ever been like a clear statement as to why we're having such a large number of ships released now, without anything being done necessarily to prop up or support the price of Atlas? Because right now, the way I see it, with the ships being released, the ships are kind of undermining the value of the current ships that have already been sold. And these ships themselves are not selling as well as they could. So I don't know if there's been any dialogue or conversation that explains what the actual reason is for the additional ship sales occurring now.
Yeah, I've been in the same boat as I was away from home for a week and some change. But yeah, the next influx of users are coming, and I always go back to what Wagner said. He wants to grow the community to 500,000 plus. So I'm not sure what it's looking like right now. We're well over 100,000. But if we're gonna have people coming in with different amounts of money that they can invest, you want to have options for people when they come into a game. Now, when it comes to what was mentioned as far as the rewards and the return on investment for any, I guess, ships from the team, I guess that's a different topic of conversation. But I could understand why there'll be a constant influx of ships coming in for information to be shared, new artwork, and then the potential for score coming out with the showroom
Well, that's
or
interesting.
stream. Sorry.
I saw that mention there that Wagner says he's getting ready for 1 million users. I was just asking before the show here if the Discord has really grown, and the Discord hasn't grown. So my thing is that if the goal is marketing, do the marketing first and then release the ships so that you have a frenzy for a sale, and that also supports your existing users that have already purchased ships, who are now seeing the values for those ships drop by a good 30%, in some cases 40%, I think is the highest. But yeah, I'm just curious, like what the game plan is in that regard. Star Atlas as a whole is a project, again, I still remain excited for. We have a lot of activity within our guild that's around Star Atlas. But for me, I always want to at least understand what the game plan is. We've had Wagner on the show here about a month or so ago, and one of the things that was mentioned then is that as a company, they already have more resources than they can deploy. So if you have more resources than you can deploy, and my background being in marketing, I'm asking the question, like, why would you be doing a ship sale now if you don't have the people ready to buy those ships? Invest that money that you have to deploy, which you clearly have lots of, into your marketing now, and then maybe delay the gal, or do some things like make the ships only available in Atlas. So it just seems like some levers that could be pulled that I'm just curious as to why not. And as is always the case, there's probably things that I'm just not aware of, but I would like to become aware of. So hopefully some of those questions can be answered.
Yeah, I totally agree. Ronald out here, Funcracker, mentioning that the prices are the same, supply dramatically increased. So that's always a good sign. But that's just for the last 4 ships, right? We have many more. If there was, yeah, I think there was more than 4 at this point. It's just like the ships are blending all together and when they were released. But yeah, as I don't see it continuing to be the same price for any of the ships. There's going to definitely be a balance over time for what the market claims any of these ships to cost. But yeah, I'm I guess it's a 4 to 6 week wait when it comes to figuring all this out.
Yeah. Well, the other side that's kind of interesting too, and I'll put this out there, is that, again, for me, I always like when a project, when their initial things that they suggest match up along the way. And one of the things that initially brought me to Star Atlas as a project was I heard said over and over and over again that
Right.
the target for return on investment when you participate in what's happening with Star Atlas is approximately a year. And some of the initial expectation with the GAO out the gate was people were seeing 8 to 12%. And we saw that when scores started in December 16th of last year, Atlas was at about 12 and a half cents at that time. And something else that had been said again and again and again with consistency is that the reward system was going to peg to USD the value of the VWAP for that ship, and that immediately following the release of the staking, that over a period of time there was going to be considerable adjustments to that. There hasn't been a single adjustment, and a quarter has already passed. And if we go based on what the return is now, it's not a year, it's about 3.5 years. So again, my question is, why are you selling more and more ships now where the return on your investment at the current model
Right.
is about 3.5 years and not a year? So again, just questions that I don't have answers to. And I guess if I was on a town hall, I should probably ask these, and haven't given the opportunity the next one, perhaps I will. But these are
Right.
the questions in my mind. I'm just speaking my mind out loud.
Right. And it seems contradictory that projects, which a lot of them do, Gala is one of them, and so is Axie Infinity, and all the big names, AAA quote unquote projects that are here. They've said things where we hold their feet to the fire from being early enough to witness and then compile these Discord messages. You can just search a name and you can
Right.
see the amount of times via the word, whether it's
Yep.
whatever the word is, and it's just like this is what really got everyone initially invested to help grow the project and keep it sustainable for the most part, as far as the user base, right? As gamers,
Mhm.
earlier on, and 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 to Fun Crack, it's a totally fair point, and it's definitely there's an imbalance of this happening, in my opinion, across the board in the discords amongst the communities for these games, where there's not enough, criticism, constructive criticism, but then also holding um, teams accountable for what they said. And we're not trying to make to FUD anyone's bags, right? But if a lot of the community was anticipating initially the the return on an investment, which Wagner said himself, versus maybe uh, Eric Schermeyer from Gala Games, right? The head there saying it's not an investment, don't expect anything. It's pretty easy for anyone to say if you don't like it, sell your NFTs, right? Or sell all your tokens, or pick a reason for why and how you can get out of a project if you don't like it. But then if we all did that, then where would the whole space be? If 80%, the 80-20 rule, if 80% of people just don't like it and leave, then what your exit liquidity, right? Like it'll probably help us, but we'd have to be first in line to get out, and that's not the whole point of why we even are a group as Rome, and it doesn't make sense for a project as Star Atlas, who are developing in the space, to say things that, and if they have to either go back on and change, because I'm pretty understanding, and I'm not oblivious to the realities of, like, yeah, it's not a perfect world, but like Jess was saying, there needs to be information that's that these things need to be remembered, that they were said on
Right.
some level, and then touched on soon after, or if whether it's months or a year, they need to be addressed, because then you'll have this festering community base that were the most more or less the biggest investors in the project. And then I could imagine the balancing act that takes place with the project and in behind the scenes of what the economics look like, to appease, or to help the initial investors, and then the community coming in, and then to appeal to traditional gamers with the different types of ships and the costs and the range of what they cost to get more people in. So, like, we're not low blowing any project, definitely not Gala, as they just were the most consistent with saying things and not following up.
Right.
But every project is doing this, even this Axie Infinity. So it just seems to be the thing. Like, and even Android mentioned it, how we're in a place where it's just ever evolving and growing, as this was never a thing before for any games, like real world economies in game with tokens and the whole technology as a whole. So.
Right.
But on that note, we can, if there's no other Star Atlas news, Fancy.
Not much this week, really.
Yeah, there was a what is it? An update on the
the roadmap report.
Yeah, the roadmap report. But we could skip over that, just for time's sake.
Yeah, there was quite a cool Alluvium match between Kieran and Warwick brothers. They placed $1 million on the line, USDC, in ILV, I mean, and whoever lasted the longest in their survival mode, which they've been showing us for the last month or so, won. And that's going to be happening again next week, because it went to a tiebreaker, so you definitely don't want to miss that final match between them.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty entertaining. I happened to watch it this morning, and they tied out at the end. So I was just like, of course they tied out. It was all for it was a marketing ploy, right? To get more eyes on the project. So it's all fun and games, and if whether it was real or not, it did seem so, because of the brotherly rivalry between the brothers, and how competitive they are. But the game looks great, and I look forward to the second stream, I guess it was. Yep. Of their
same time next week. So I can't remember which day, but I think it was Friday. So that'll be fun to watch.
For sure.
Yeah, for those following Alluvium, since we're on the topic of Alluvium, then you probably, if you did any staking, then their version 2 has gone live. Portion of it anyway. You can enough to where you can adjust what your last staking was to restake. We don't know what the APY is for it yet, but those that were in that holding period for, was it like a couple of months?
Something
You
like
at least
that.
were able to get your reward during that unknown period. And then I think the APY for the new staking is going to be updated on the 31st, so a couple more days.
Good to know.
Nice. And yep, go ahead, fans.
Yeah, there was some chatter in the community about the next town hall for Star Atlas being around like the first of the month, something like that. So potentially next week before our show. That'd be good.
Yeah, for sure.
But no promises there.
Just in case, not financial advice. No promises were made ever by Metaverse Nomads. But we can move on to Mirandus. There's some good stuff happening in the Discord of Gala Games when it comes to the Mirandus discussion channel. We got McCarthy, who's the lead developer there for their flagship game, Mirandus, and he's coming out with the whole theory crafting conversations in the Discord. And I chimed in and I commended him for doing that, and to as he said, doing it more often is something that he wants to do. And this is the beginning. This is the very beginning of me feeling much better about just the communication line between the development of the game. Tokenomics aside, we can wait. Let's just start with just more communication, right? Like I'm inviting anything at this point, and it just gets me excited. I'm sure as it does with everyone else who's interested in Mirandus, as we were first a guild for Mirandus and then branched off into Star Atlas. But yeah, the lanterns went on sale for the first round was 10,000 Materium, and the price of that out the gate was a little bit over $1, I think. Let's see.
Yeah, the buck lasted for about, and I missed it. I totally missed it because my plan all along was to immediately liquidate because I got a nice chunk of Materium. And it's because it's the reason why it's just too early for me to speculate the value, what it's going to be. And I have enough speculations going on out there. So for me, I just wanted to cash out, but I wasn't aware that it started that night. So I didn't catch it till the next day when it was right around 60 cents. And it's sitting at 41 cents right now.
Right. So, still a long way to go for it to find its place. There's not even any information literally other than what you can buy. There's no utility. And the only thing you can get is this lantern, which is apparently sold out. And I kind of missed the buck on that one. And I wasn't at a computer. So I did make my goal of acquiring enough Materium for it. But yeah, so you win some, you lose some. But I look forward to maybe the secondary market was popping. There was a lot of sales of the lanterns at 15 soon after, and I think a couple of people celebrated in the
15 grand is what they were going for.
15 Materium, 15,000 Materium. So there was one, just a history of sales. And now
I'm just wondering if there were any on the secondary market, what they were going for.
Oh, they're going for 10 Ethereum now. So
what?
I think the only one, the only one now that I remember seeing. Let's type in lantern here. Yep, I only see 5 days left on this sale, and it's $31,000, 10 Ethereum.
Do you see a last sale, like to see what what one sold for?
Yeah. So there was a sale of, we got the Gala Vault with $100 ETH listing price of a lantern. Okay. And other than yeah,
it didn't show any that actually sold though. That's just what people were listing them for.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do have sales. I remember seeing them. I'm not sure what's going on here, but yeah, there was one for 15. Then it kept going up from there because the second round and the third round increased by 25%. I think it was. So you saw on the market for Gala Games it costing around 32,000 Materium.
But isn't that, I mean, when you think about this industry as a whole, it's fascinating. So here we have a lamp. We don't really know what the lamp does other than produce light. It's listed as ancient, so that gives us an idea of its rarity, but we don't know its utility yet. We do know that the way that McCarthy's building out the world of Mirandus is that light or darkness is going to be a real thing. He says that when you go out in the woods at night, he wants you to feel like, hey, something could just sneak up on you. So light is a thing, but is it a thing to where I need an object to provide light for me that costs that much? Don't know. Maybe they'll work some utility into it, But it's just interesting at this stage, the fan base put so much stock into something, and I'm not saying that I'm removed from that, because I bought plenty. I probably still have more Mirandus assets than most people, so I'm included in that loop. I'm just saying that it's fascinating how much the stories we create in our mind around value in this space without really knowing its utility.
Yeah, pretty much. And when you're involved in more than one game, you see and you compare and contrast yourself, hopefully, the prices of these NFTs compared to other projects, where they're at with development, how much communication is happening between community and the developer. And it's kind of like night and day with a lot of projects that I'm involved in. So the prices don't necessarily match up with what they've already offered for for me personally. But nevertheless, right? You know, to each their own, and only invest what you can afford to lose, so on and so forth. So I do commend McCarthy for theory crafting with the community, and 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 open to still suggestions on what certain things should do and not do, or horses living versus dying or falling off a cliff. So there's still conversation. It seems like there's not any definite answers that he might have come up with yet, or if so, he's not sharing that, and he's still trying to like get the community to get involved. So either way, it's not giving me enough confidence to know that these things were fleshed out already, and these are those details that you expect to already have been figured out if we're talking about all these new tokens coming out to be purchased, all these new NFTs to be that come out to be purchased for gameplay. When if your horse falls off a cliff, I think that would make me buy a lantern, because now if I have to walk everywhere, I would need my lantern. And if I'm in the, so it's stuff like that that runs through my head.
It's not going to bring you horseback, man.
It's not going to be. So we'll see what's going on, but yeah, stay tuned. You get involved, ask the questions, demand more from in a respectful way from these developers, in a supportive way, and we'll see what we can pull out together to share amongst each other.
So I got an image. I'm not sure what the actual source is. So, but it is suggested that it is a screenshot of potential for Mirandus. So I don't know if you guys have seen this.
Yeah, good catch. Yeah, the art appeals to me. You know, it's I don't know if this is a mock-up of.
I think it looks very mock-up, but if it's interesting if that's where they're going. One of the things I can say that has happened for sure is that the number of pixels from the original is starting to get condensed down to have a bit more detail. It's not. It seems like they're moving in the direction of being slightly less blocky than before. But the one thing that still stands out for me as a whole, though, is that I really truly wish that Mirandus was being built with a third person view. The first person view, just for me personally, I get fatigued in first person views like that, especially in an MMORPG where you're running around, you're covering a lot of ground. And as I've mentioned before on past shows when we've covered Mirandus, I kind of like the idea of being able to see my character. That kind of makes me feel like I get to see more of my own character interacting with other characters and interacting with the world. I personally get more joy out of that in a game rather than just seeing my hands on the screen, you know, and a sword and running around that way.
For sure. And I don't doubt, although they might not know or have a decision made right now, that we would have the option to go in and out of first and third. I just see it as a necessity at this point.
Yeah, I hope so.
Me too. But yeah, as far as Mirandus news, you can continue the conversation in our channels in Rome. So definitely join up at gorome.io. We can also always, there's a great community members there who are living in some of these discords and bringing back some great information, because as we know, we can't have our eyes and ears everywhere at the same time. So community is important no matter what projects you're a part of. But yeah, I guess we can move on to Axie Infinity to close out. If you guys don't have any other comments on Gala,
Yeah, go for it.
it's just a brief summary of what's going on, because the end of the month here, coming up on the 30th, is going to have the new V3 card game for Axie Infinity coming out. There's a lot of anticipation. We saw the price of AXS and SLP just shoot up. So people are making moves, whether to invest to get ready for breeding axes that have some meta comps related to the cards. And talking about cards here, there was the cards for the ears that came out. So that happened, which is great. We never had. This is a pretty monumental moment because there was never any cards associated with the ears or the eyes since inception of the project. It was always talked about that they would, and here we are. Got the reveal of the effects and the card art for the ears, and I just went along and just threw it all together on one. Not the usual, but here we have every class and the art associated with them. You can check out the art, the Substack article via their Twitters or Discord. So
now, is that going to completely wipe all of the pre-existing meta builds, as in their significance? Now that you're adding 2 more factors to the game?
I don't think so, and there's going to be a slow transition of you even being able to earn playing in V3. So season 20 just ended, or it's coming to a close, and the introduction of V3 was mentioned. This is all information that was public from the team, that there's going to be the introduction via the season of 20 that is currently still taking place and coming to a close, where you'll be able to play both V2 and V3. Your choice. You'll earn in V2, but no earning in V3. And then there'll be a slow rollout or closeout, rather, of V2 over time. But this is just to introduce the game and to do any nerfs and buffs of whatever the community comes up with as far as new compositions, because there's a lot of axes that are being theory crafted on that would be major meta builds, but there are none that exist so far when it comes to those types of card combinations and classes on the marketplace as of now. So, all the axes that were kind of like chop suey or just not good at all to earn in the current arena for V2 are now potentially can be the best axes you ever had in your life. But, you wouldn't have thought that because they were V2 and not capable at the time. So it's just going to be an interesting development over time. And I could imagine it's going to take a lot of ebbs and flows here, and what the devs are going to have to keep track of, because there will be some broken axes for sure, depending on the amount of attack and defense and effect, and how they all work synergistically. So it's pretty exciting. It's really exciting, actually. It's been years. So to finally see this game coming out for what was said would come out, I invite it. So congratulations to the whole community. If you like Axie, then you'll have fun playing this. So then moving on, so we have one of the developers asking the community, as Axie Infinity is doing more often, what genre of game do you want to see launch on the Sky Mavis headquarters and the Ronin network. So just jumping from Axie specifically, but the Ronin network is a whole new layer 1 that was built by Sky Mavis, and Axie Infinity is one of those games, but it's going to be a Steam-like type of environment where they're going to onboard a lot of projects. And so, the community is just learning as they go, or the projects developers are learning as they go with the community and asking what they would like to see. I'm sure whenever this happens, there's already a plan. Like it wouldn't be the smartest thing to do to just simply ask and build just from the questions and the answers you asked or got from any community. There's already a plan in place, I believe, from just everything that I've been keeping up with, and it's just yet to be seen, because they want to see if it lines up with what the community is actually wanting and feeling. So it makes sense for them to ask these types of questions. And then there was an update for the amount of fees that are going to be the amount of transactions that you'll have that are free based off of the items and axes that you have in the game. So on March 29th, a variety of changes will be released to increase Ron's utility, which is the equivalent of Ethereum on the Ronin chain. It's the token you use to sign transactions on, to send, to buy, to swap, to claim, and the sustainability scale, or Ronin can sustainably scale transactions moving forward, which will help onboarding new games. So you could check this out, pause the screen, but if you have anything and there's a time length of having them in your wallet that qualify you for those free transactions. So you can also check out this information on the Twitter, and that's pretty cool.
Is that what's been driving? I mean, I haven't followed Ron token much, but it's up about 25% in the past 2 weeks. So that's
pretty much
good for holder for sure.
Right.
Is that what's driving it?
Pretty much. There's literally nothing else that you can do with this Ron token other than just this new evolution of what's happening on the Ronin chain, along with Axie Infinity. So they're kind of working in hand, like in. I see it as one helping the other in many ways because Axie lives on the Ronin chain. So it's only a matter of time before they get a new game on there that's utilizing the Ron token. And if it's any of these Axie Infinity projects that are being funded by the grant program from the team of Axie Infinity, they'll also be using SLP and AXS. So there's going to be way more utility in time for a lot of just these tokens that have been just going sideways or going down for some time. So we'll see. It's still a ever evolving place. So that's good to know that there's more utility coming for Ron. And and that's about it, man. That's about it for not much going on. Like we opened up today's episode with. There's a lot of waiting going on for projects to share information with this community. Everyone's learning alongside each other, right? For you to think that you're going to get rich quick tomorrow, you might learn a hard lesson sooner than later. And that's pretty much it for me. If there's anything that you guys want to close out on, we'll definitely be able to see you guys next week. Join our Discord and like and subscribe. Come on, support the content creators. It is not a struggle, but it's dedication, and we enjoy every minute of it. And watch out, we got some announcements coming up as far as Rome is concerned. There's no fixed timelines or hard dates, so if you ask, we might not tell you much, but it's exciting. Building in the space, creating content, keeping up to date with everything. So it's a pleasure knowing all of you and being here, growing alongside, and that's it for me.
Indeed, it's been a kind of a light week. It's kind of like always feels like the calm before the storm, before some big news and events shake up at least the projects that we follow and that we're involved in. But I enjoyed doing these shows, and it's always great getting the feedback from all of you that show up here pretty consistently with us live each week. Much appreciation.
And Fancy, round this out. Fantastic. That's exactly what we needed to hear. And on that note, we'll see you guys next week. Rome out.
Atlas Minor, you were born to push the block in search of ore. And now it's time that you are gone. So farewell, Atlas Minor. And farewell, Mud and Oni too. Who's the sector same to you? The pirate bastards ran him through. So farewell, Atlas Minor. They promised you a diamond mine, but I'll be damned, it's hard to find. I hope there's justice for their crimes. And farewell, Atlas Minor. And farewell, friend, don't take it hard. Getting killed ain't all that bad. They'll treat you well in the repair yard. So farewell,